Thank you so much, Beerud. And I think this sets the stage for an interesting discussion with our panelists. So I think before we begin the panel, I would request each of our panelists to please introduce themselves for the benefit of our attendees, your background and the companies that you represent, and then we can get started. Whoever wants to.
Hi, my name is Balaya Moharana, Head of Technology for Dehaat. Dehaat is one of the leading startups in the agritech sector. So we are trying to digitize the entire supply chain, value chain of the farming sector in India. And we want to provide services to farmers from end to end, from seed to market, as we call them. And today I will expand on how these activities and the services for the farmers, D2C kind of platforms and messaging solutions helps what we have done and what we intend to do going forward.
Thank you, Balaya. Akhil?
Hi, I am Akhil. I head technology at Faballey. We are one of the leading women apparel brands in India. We have two brands, Faballey in India, and I'm sure among the attendees, most of the women must be aware of our brands, most likely are our customers. We are an omnichannel brand, so we are available not only through our website or our apps. We have physical stores across India. We are available on multi-brand stores, large-scale multi-brand stores, something like a lifestyle and everything. Despite being primarily an apparel brand, we are very, very savvy in terms of tech, in terms of using the latest technologies, and to make sure that not just the sales process becomes easier and it makes our bottom line and top line better, but the customer experience, which is one of the most important factors these days in the looking at the competition out there, is of the topmost quality. So that's where my team of exceptional engineers helps Faballey achieve these goals.
Thank you so much, Akhil. Aman?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Aman. I'm leading the creation of a new vertical here at Lenskart. It's called as OHOS 21, with the idea of making the process of eyewear purchase very easy for consumers. And we are trying to make use of all sorts of new tools available to do that, including conversational style of commerce, which this webinar is also about. So yeah, that's what I'll be doing.
Thank you so much. And Beerud, over to you to lead the discussion.
All right. Well, welcome everyone. Looking forward to this discussion with you guys. So, why don't we just start off with how are you using messaging in your business, and then to extend beyond that, conversational experiences as well. And perhaps, Aman, why don't you lead off, and then the others can join in.
Sure. So you mean how are we using conversational messaging in our business? Is it better?
Yeah. How are you using messaging to engage with your customers? I know, you do a lot of messaging business. So
correct. Yeah. So primarily, see, for all the normal use cases, as you also mentioned in your slides right now, we are using conversational messaging for support, for taking feedback from our customers. Suppose a customer has placed an order and he doesn't know what happened with their order, then he can directly select that option and they will get a reply from our chatbot for that. Other use case for us is because we also have Lenskart is an omnichannel company. We also have a lot of physical stores. And if there's a person moving outside and they just want to directly know which is the store closest to them, they can select that option and they would get that detail as well. So that are few ways in which we are using conversational messaging. But I believe apart from these, Beerud, the conventional sense of conversational messaging as we see it, I also believe that in some sense, social media marketing is also a form of conversational messaging. And we at Lenskart are using that heavily. And with OHOS 21, we want to do that more. Why is that, in my opinion, a form of conversational messaging? Because in my opinion, every brand today has to become a media brand too. And you're posting something, people are commenting on it. And every brand today actively tries to engage with consumers over there as well. So you're not providing any information, you're not easing the discovery, but you are directly creating a touch point with the consumers there that helps with your branding. It might be in form of entertainment or something else. In fact, there was just a very popular campaign called for content creators on LinkedIn by Lenskart for this. So I believe that's also a form of conversational messaging in some way, which we are using at our end.
All right, Akhil?
Yeah, absolutely. The cases that Aman mentioned, obviously they are there. Everything transactional, as in updating them about the whole process and sending promotional things aside. With the onset of ease of the availability of internet and the increasing number of avenues where a customer can get in touch with me, it has become important for a brand, for a D2C brand like me, to make sure that I am available everywhere. And for the sake of the customer, and as I mentioned, customer experience is a key, very important aspect here. The conversation should basically transfer from one avenue to another. Today, a customer can, for the sake of argument, a query, get in touch with me through WhatsApp, through calls. They can fill a form on my website. They can go to my Facebook page. They can ping me on Instagram, as you had just mentioned. So there are a lot of avenues. And if this flow is not conversational, all of these aspects, all of these conversations become broken. The problem that we all have faced in the past when we deal with a brand is, the worst one is to have to share your problem with every new agent you speak with. You speak to someone, you tell your problem. Next time you connect, you speak to someone else who is not really aware of what your problem is or what your history is. Conversational strategy basically takes care of that. Does not matter where the consumer is getting in touch with us. They resume at the point where they left previously. So that's why we are actively working in building a central brain at our system, which basically acts as the common source of truth for all the brands, and every aspect, even if it is an email going out, it has to consider the history of the customer, their purchases, browses, and everything, so that in the end it's easier for them, and again, conversational in nature, to be really precise.
Great. Balaya?
Yes. So in our scenario, the D2C, the way we do it puts a whole different dimension to this particular sector, right? Our consumers are actually farmers, and the solution that we want to give them in a conversational way is personalized advisory, crop advisory. So what we need to do for them is to have a conversation with them to understand their problem, where the crop disease might be happening, what other problems they're facing, what are supposed to do if there is extra rain or different climatic problems that are happening, and how well we can provide a very personalized advisory for them. The key difference between what we have to do, what we're doing right now, and what is typically happens is that our consumer is not coming to us for a lifestyle. He's coming for us for his livelihood, right? So that itself provides a whole different dimension to how we have to leverage this particular platform to provide solutions to our farmers in a way that changes the entire dynamics that they have right now. Right now, there is no personalized advice. There's nobody is really handholding them for this particular farmer, for this particular crop, at this particular season, even in this particular week of the farming cycle, what he needs to do. And if there's a problem, how he solves it. So we have done certain level of implementation. We have very much at the early stage of this, and our user base is also fairly small, much smaller than, of course, what the FMCG as consumer goods market would be. But regardless, it has a very large impact when it comes fully online, not just for the farmers themselves, but the entire there is a social mission for us here. With the farmer income and the farmers' livelihood becomes better, then of course it makes a lot of difference in the entire social scenario. So we have done WhatsApp-based conversational solution that we're providing right now. We provide similar solutions over the IVR as well, because obviously our farmers are still not fully digitized yet. That is also another mission that is part of our mission. We're trying to digitize the entire supply chain for the farming, not just the farming, the advisory that we give them. So the question really is how well we can leverage these kind of platforms to provide very rich visual and audio-visual based solutions, not just textual solutions, because the farmer is a lot more, understands a lot more visual input. Reading-wise, maybe he's a little bit less literate, but visual, audio-visual is something he is very interested in, and that helps a lot. So that's where we are, and we have done some implementation, and we'll continue to work on this, and we'll try to see how different platforms like this will help us.
Got it. And, maybe if we go in reverse order, Balaya had a question for you. So how do you think about providing experiences inside a mobile app versus outside the app or through a messaging interface, right? So what % of your users actually have the app? And then how do you deal with other users who don't?
Right. So we have a very small percentage of our users on the app because, like I said, the smartphone penetration in rural area is still about maybe, let's say, 20-25%. And of that, maybe about 5 to 10% of our users are on the smartphone. But that's just the beginning of it. And we want to expand this in much more ways. And there are various strategies we're following them right now. For us, it has to be like 99% mobile first. There is no other, right? Mobile is what the farmer is right now on the platform, and that's the platform preferred by them. And so beyond the mobile, of course, those people farmers who are not part of, smartphone enabled, we have the IVR system that we use very extensively. So farmers do make the calls a lot more than the farmers do the smartphone interactions, even though that is increasing maybe 100% basis every few months. And on top of that, for us particularly, we also have a very extensive ground presence. So our strategy is physical plus digital. It's just not digital. Only way we can bring all the rural folks onto the digital platform if we also connect them one way or the other on the physical level, on the ground, having farmer meetings, seminars, and demo sessions of different products, and then transitioning them to the digital side for them to come on board with us.
Akhil, any thoughts?
Yeah, actually, that's very true. But that's something that I had also mentioned. As Beerud, you had also said, SMS is the foundation. SMS is something that has been always there and is not going anywhere, no matter how much smartphones and internet get into the penetrate into rural India. So the idea behind having a MVP or a platform which caters to everyone, like Balaya just mentioned, most people that interact with them are either through calls, which is again for us also surprisingly a major factor, and then SMS. So completely agree. We have to build our setups in a way that the lowest common denominator is catered for, and then we eventually build the pyramid up.
Aman?
Yeah. So Beerud, answering your question, I mean, Balaya's business might be an exception, but for a D2C brand like Lenskart, which has so many options, something that we can't do in in-app messaging is discovery. I mean, because we have so many products on our website, it's just not possible to allow discovery of those products in in-app messaging, right? And because of the scale of the business, we can't even provide such personalization, I mean, chat with each and every individual who is shopping on the website or app. And because the discovery happens in that way, the transaction also needs to happen in-app. And so due to that reason, I mean, we can only use auxiliary services such as support or, I mean, feedbacks kind of things in in-app messaging. But obviously with OHOS 21 that I am working on, where the entire idea is to keep a limited inventory and such things, we are considering to even move the discovery aspect of these things onto WhatsApp with the new feature like WhatsApp catalog that has come up. And similar things have come up on different social media websites like Instagram too. As you were mentioning in your slide too, I mean, that most of these small businesses are using it. I mean, there's a higher use case for them to use these things because they can't even build an in-house app or a website. And obviously people might not even install them if they make it. So today, even so on a personal experience, whenever I talk to any small resort owners or homestay owners, or even when I go to order at a small restaurant, they all have completely moved on to conversational style of discovery experience too. They have a catalog which you scan the QR code, you're directly taken in a WhatsApp chat chat and you can directly place the order from there. So obviously that is going to come, but for D2C brands that are at scale right now, this discovery experience to bring it in messaging is a big challenge.
Yeah, Aman, interestingly, this is something that we in the apparel space are actually looking forward to. Again, see, we are talking about different products, eyeglasses versus apparels, but for us, discovery is still possible. Again, the problem of having a huge catalog is there, right? Every search results would yield hundreds of results, but if a query comes in a form which says, can you please show me black party dresses, right? That's a very conversational question, which otherwise would have translated into them going to dresses and then selecting the checkbox for black. So that becomes very easy for the customer and for us to, plus adding to it the personalization angle that you and I have built in our system, right? Looking at the amount of data we are capturing across all platforms, it's much easy for us, for my system today, and that's something that my system does today, to show them top 5 black dresses which we feel is good for them. And with the help of the data that we have, I know the customer's size, because in case they have purchased in the past, I know the kind of patterns they show affinity to. The ease of choosing, right? This is something that I am a big fan of. If I show them 100 black dresses, it becomes very difficult for them, because again, too much choice is also a problem. But if I am able to intelligently and then accurately, and that's the key word here, show them something within a chat window in the form of a carousel, like these are the 5 dresses which we feel are good for you. That's something I believe would be really beneficial for us in terms of conversion. And this is something that we're actually actively working on. So again, same D2C, huge catalogs, but the only difference being glasses is most likely, it's possible, it might not be possible with glasses, but with apparel, there is still ground to be broken.
Yeah, Akhil, so I think a mix of, in-app and messaging would be, the ideal way to go. And obviously all DTC brands have to move towards that. So the thing with glasses is that you also have to enter your prescription, right? Select the type of lenses. So obviously, as you mentioned, there can be a mix where we provide a link to a consumer in a conversational style. He asks, we do half the work for him or her, right? So yes, obviously, that is the step forward. This is a challenge. And over time, I'm sure all the brands are going to overcome it.
Got it. That's great. So, just stepping back at a higher level, this vision. So if we look at it, let's say, maybe not in the, in the next month or two, but let's say if you look at it a year out or maybe 3 years out, do you see this sort of, Amazon Alexa, like some sort of conversational intelligent brand? And I think to the point that the two of you were just discussing, right? I think even discovery is solvable. Because again, the analogy I like in an offline store, even in a glasses store, instead of browsing this whole catalog of things, I just go to the person saying, okay, do you have glasses, rimless glasses with this shape that fits my face, that's within this budget range? And then he sort of magically shows me like 5 choices. And then I pick one of those, and then he shows me another 5 variations of that, and I pick one more, and you do that 3 or 4 times, and that's the discovery, even though there's probably 10,000 frames in the backdrop, right? So what I'm saying is, let's assume, right, that there's an intelligent conversational experience in leveraging AI and capabilities, and all of that does take engineering, so it may not happen overnight. But if you have that, right, then an Alexa-like experience where you can just say, okay, show me black dresses, cocktail, this length, this size, and that narrows it to like 5 options out of 5,000. Or, show me the right rimless glasses for my face in this budget range, and it gives me like 5 options. If you could do that for discovery, and then of course for commerce, one-click payment, support, troubleshooting, returns, refunds, discounts, coupons, deals, all of that, right? How do you see that sort of future emerging over time, especially as it relates to D2C brands and maybe even broadly for other businesses?
This is already happening. This is something that more or less, the ease of onboarding to these technologies has made it accessible to smaller brands as well. Bigger brands were always there. So you could always ask Alexa about presents on products on Amazon, but now it's possible. And this is something that a lot of brands are also doing, wherein you can onboard yourself to Alexa, leverage the vast ecosystem that they have, the penetration that they have, and considering that newer Alexa devices or Google devices, or Apple devices, they are all screen enabled. So the problem of our products being primarily visual in nature, that also gets taken care of. And then, as I mentioned previously, the whole process of discovery becomes easier. It's the same process that you have just iterated. Instead of a human salesperson standing there, just talking to your Alexa, which you are anyways doing every day. That's the whole idea that we are banking on, that since you're used to using Alexa, you might use our application. You can ask Alexa to look for black dresses, look for black party dresses. If we have a good enough integration and we know how to optimize things, our products could again show up there. Eventually, the breakthrough would be the ability to shop then and there. That's something that's not there right now. That's something which is very platform specific. You can buy Amazon products using your Alexa, but that's for the other aspect, there is a handoff. Once we get through this hurdle, then the process becomes entirely very, very similar to a physical store, a physical salesperson actually helping me with an inbuilt camera in these devices, right? Lenskart has been a pioneer in that field. They always have had the system wherein using the webcam, they could project the glasses. Very similar setup can also be done for apparel, right? You and I can stand in front of a camera and it can superimpose the AR of a t-shirt or a shirt, and then it makes the process very easy, right? What we are basically, with the help of these devices, doing is bringing the conventional shopping experience, which is very different from online shopping experience, and bringing them much closer. The ease of seeing with your eyes how it looks on you at your home. So again, we are very bullish on this. My team is kind of with smaller increments. We are working on them. I'm sure most of D2C brands are already working on them. But again, this is the future. VR, AR is going to be the next big thing.
Akhil, you mentioned it right. I mean, I think if a shopping experience really has to become conversational for today's consumers, we need to bring the way our parents used to shop in stores. I mean, in fact, we as kids, I mean, today we are only using Amazon, right? But even to buy groceries, we're using Instamart on Swiggy or Grofers or whatnot. But really, when we used to go to a Kirana store, he used to tell us about brands, right? Ki, aap ye le lo. I mean, this is the new Colgate, ye naya toothpaste acha hai, right? That was truly conversational in nature. When we are today buying from Instamart, that's really, I mean, we are trying to make it a conversation, but in its truest sense, it's not conversational. But with technologies like Alexa, and as Akhil mentioned, it can really be made that sort of conversation. And obviously with the intersection of AR and VR also in that, the possibilities are limitless. And Amazon is already doing that to a great extent. Even Uber and Swiggy, from what I'm aware, they tried to do it a couple of years ago, but it wasn't a big hit at that time in India. But obviously, there's a lot of engineering efforts involved to make it more intuitive right now. It's not that intuitive as of yet, but yes, going ahead, that has to be the future. I mean, that is what we have shopped for ages, right? We can't just change the entire human behavior in 10 years. That has to come in some form or the other.
Right. Balaya, where do you see, the future in agritech and so on emerging in terms of customer interaction experiences? Yeah.
So for us, the technology infusion in terms of providing the farmer the right advisory at the right time will always be the key aspect going forward, right? And any technology that helps us in that direction, part of it is, of course, for us, it has to be also by direction, because we not only want to give them the advisory, we also want to receive the ground truthing back from them. Based on our advisory, how their crop actually failed, what was the good part of it, was the not good part of it. And by receiving this kind of feedback from the farmer, which we call the ground truthing, actually enhances our ML model, our machine learning model, to create this advisory in much more accurate way than that we have done in the past. And so what happens, how the conversational part is more important for us is that the product that we give to the farmer is actually evolving as we talk more to the farmer, more interaction that we do with the farmer. Because the feedback from the farmer is much important for the ML model to work, to provide them this kind of advisory than anything else. So ground truthing is very important. So that's the way it has to proceed for us. And what we need in the immediate future, of course, is a way to provide rich media to the farmer in terms of the audio, visual, and visual explanations. That works better for them in terms of understanding. But the future trend for us is to make sure that the feedback from the farmer becomes a lot more what do you call detailed. That helps us in this direction.
Got it. There was a comment you made earlier, Aman, about social media itself is conversational. Now, in some sense, yes, of course, because it's but it's public, right? It's one to many because everybody can see everything and so on. So there's certain things people would say or may not say, right? If there's a problem, a refund, a cancellation, it's sort of hard to do it in public. But now, interestingly, what we are seeing is the social media space and the conversational space, right? The true one-on-one private conversational space is converging because WhatsApp has just opened up APIs for one-on-one conversations. Facebook and Facebook Messenger always had it. And Twitter also has the DM capability through private messaging, right? So we are seeing examples where when somebody puts out a complaint in public, in social media, the chatbot in that channel, Instagram, Facebook Messenger, or Twitter, would reach out to that person and say, hey, chat with me privately. Let's see if we can solve the issue. And then, of course, go through the troubleshooting or whatever it is and convert that at the end into a positive comment, right? And that could happen instantly, like within 5 minutes of the complaint popping up, the issue is resolved, becomes a positive thing. And that's very powerful to drive, sort of social media reputation or address customer issues and so on. Have you guys looked at it? Do you see this becoming a big factor over time?
Obviously, I mean, Beerud, today, if you go on any post that a company posts, there's a lot of comments like these that you mentioned, right? Obviously, people don't generally come to give positive comments, but if there's a single negative experience, they will come on all different channels for you, right? They're going to comment like anything on all your posts. And if we have a way to address that at speed, that's what matters, right? For these things, speed matters. If anybody is posting a thing about your company on LinkedIn, you need to address it before it becomes viral for a brand, right? Things happen. No matter how much a brand tries for nothing wrong to happen, it may happen for a few customers, right? But for those customers, that is their experience with your brand, and you need to address that. So obviously, if there is a tool which allows us to do that fast, that would really immensely be helpful for any brand, for that matter.
Okay.
Yeah, again, absolutely. See, as Aman has mentioned, right? No matter how much we try, something will get messed up, and then we will have some grievance or the other. Now, we have to understand we are also in the same shoes at a lot of times where we are unhappy. What we expect is a prompt response, a prompt redressal of our issue, and if that is there, it sends out a very positive message. It sends out a message that the brand is not just trying to sell me things, but it also cares about post-sales, my experience as well. So in that scenario, if a process is entirely human, right, that will incorporate in itself some bit of delay, some bit of human error. But if that is something that can be automated, maybe a chatbot, an omnichannel chatbot, which constantly looks out for such issues across various platforms, be it a Twitter angry tweet, be it a post, or even a comment on our Facebook, or Instagram, right? And it can promptly get them to start to initiate a conversation. That is good enough to turn the tide in terms of from a negative experience to a resolution, and in the end a positive experience. It is possible to convert these people to champions, to ambassadors who can tell their friends that this brand is responsive. So 100%. If it can be automated, it should be automated.
So Balaya, your users are probably not social media users, like you said, livelihood versus lifestyle, right? So have you looked at maybe voice and conversational voice when people call in? You could sort of automate a lot of these experiences.
We do have the IVRS solutions that's built around it, right? For the voice-based conversations with the farmers. But actually, you know what? You'd be surprised how much social media is actually being used by the farmers. Not for this purpose, but for their own purpose, right? The Facebook usage is more than what you'd expect. WhatsApp usage is quite good, more than what you would expect. Whoever has the smartphone, they are primarily using the device for the Facebook and WhatsApp conversations. That is happening already. So which means that our users are being digitized on their own. It's just that we have to leverage this. We have to leverage this towards the business. And what is the best way to leverage that using D2C platforms? So that's where we started.
Got it. So, you know, at this point, let's take some questions. So there's a question from the audience about, you know, what, if any, are the use cases for conversational commerce in B2B service businesses? Now, none of you is in a B2B service business. So let me try and generalize this, right? Which is in a consultative sale, right? Typically a B2B service business is like, there's a lot of questions and a lot of clarifications, right? Long before you get to the final product purchase or the service purchase, there's a lot of questions back and forth. Now, buying lenses, you know, buying fashionable, you know, fashion and apparel, you know, even some agritech products, it depends on the product, but these are all very consultative, right? Like, will this go with this dress? Does it match? Does it match my face? You know, etc. What are the other options? Is there something better in the same price, etc. So, you know, why don't you take it the more general version of the question and say, what are some of the use cases for this highly consultative product sales?
Yeah. So fortunately, I have a lot of experience in B2B SaaS world, and so this is something that I can say. Customer support is something that can always be made conversational, and it is always better conversational. If you are, let's take the example of if you are a SaaS provider, if you are the provider of any kind of tools, it could be a physical tool or a software-based tool, and your customer is an enterprise. Their users, no matter how much you train them, they will eventually require some bit of hand-holding. It will be a little more at the start, it will be less. So what usually lives in FAQs is something that can be made conversational in a way that if the system is intelligent enough to understand what the user is asking. Because a lot of time it also happens that the user does not themselves know what they are looking for. So if you build a system which is conversational in nature, which walks them through step by step, customer support becomes much easier. If you have a complicated product, so let's say you are a huge financial tool, your customer should be able to find out how things are done without without reading a lot of pages, without going through. And again, so support is very, very important. I personally use this functionality with a lot of my vendors, the B2B vendors that I use. When if they have a chatbot, I will go through that rather than trying to find it on my own. And again, for the sales cycle, again, because B2B, the volumes are not low, it's always better to have people going on there. The first bit of screening, first bit of pre-sales works can also be done. The whole process of getting a sense of what the customer is looking for, right? If someone comes to my site and I'm a B2B provider, if I have a conversational bot, right, that can ask them questions instead of having a boring form, which makes the whole process a little tedious. These are some of the use cases that I personally have used myself in B2B world.
Got it. You know, there was another point that was mentioned earlier about choices, right? If you have, there's a famous book called The Paradox of Choice, right? Which often says when you have too many choices, consumers don't make a purchase decision. In fact, it hurts the purchase decision. And perhaps it's exactly the reason why, Lenskart is launching this OHOS 21, right? Which is reducing choice in some ways to make it simpler.
Analysis paralysis, Beerud. I mean, that's what it's called. Analysis paralysis.
Exactly. So I think in a way, a conversational experience sort of reduces that window, right? Saying, look, don't worry about the 10,000 items in our catalog, right? Let's talk about the 5 or 10 that you care about, right? And sort of drive that when you reduce the choice and customize it and personalize it to their preferences, does that work better? So is that a big factor going forward, where I remember you talking earlier about discovery, but discovery, I don't know which is better, discovery, showing 10,000 items, right? Or showing the 10 relevant ones, so long as it can be done intelligently.
So in that sense, I mean, Beerud, I think it's always better to show as less options as possible. I mean, today's attention span time of consumers is very less. Even the news that we are reading today is personalized for us. It was never meant to be like that, right? I mean, news was meant for us to know the general affairs. We should know everything that's going on around us. But today, even the Google News suggestions is personalized exclusively for us. That is because the attention span time of consumers has decreased drastically. And going ahead, if brands have to, keep consumers coming back to them, they have to make it simpler for them. And the only way to do that is to personalize their selection for the target consumer base, whoever is coming on the website. So, yeah. And that's the whole idea behind OHOS 21, in fact. So we need to reduce the number of decisions that a consumer has to make while buying eyeglasses.
So maybe the answer is you just need a really good bot, not a whole new brand.
maybe. So the idea is going out better. In fact, the idea is to have AI also in it and to bring 21 selections for every consumer. I mean, if you come, you will see a different 21 selection. And if I go to the website, I'll see a different 21 collection.
Oh,
but we want to do it with a different brand. Yeah.
Okay, so essentially it is a bot. You're just calling it a brand.
Yes, you can say so. Yeah.
All right. Another point I picked up on, and we have a little bit of time remaining, was this whole online to offline interaction, right? You touched upon these in these offline surfaces, and many of you are omni-channel businesses. You can put a QR code on any surface, right? It could be a restaurant table, it could be a store sort of display, it could be in the mall entrance, or anywhere else. And the moment you sort of scan that QR code, it can bring to a digital experience, which can then have more discovery, or I can find my size, or I can find reviews, background information, materials, et cetera, et cetera. Do you see this becoming a big deal? And for context, in China with WeChat and so on, I mean, this is like universal, right? There's cashless and everything is digital. You don't talk to anybody, you just scan the thing. Do you see that emerging as a big factor in your omni-channel businesses? Maybe Akhil?
Yeah, absolutely. We are actually using this feature, not really with QR codes, but what we have is smart kiosks in our stores. So that in case there's a product that the customer likes and she's not able to find size in it, she should be able to kind of buy it from the website then and there. I do not want to send her away by telling her we don't have this in your size, or the other variant is not available. So we have this kind of smartness already in it. We are currently doing it in the form of kiosks, but again, a low cost version would be to have the same software that's running on the kiosk, which is again a web-based thing only, to be running using a QR code, which could very cheaply be printed on all the product tags, and then we can eventually do that. Right now, in a truly omni-channel sense, we have the ability of figuring out if the product is available online, or it could be ordered from nearby stores. So this is something that is, if you have to be truly omni-channel, then your online customers should have the ability to get the products from the stores and vice versa. So entirely, this has to be there.
Got it. All right, and maybe just in closing, so and maybe I'll ask everybody, but starting with you, Balaya, I think, how do you, where are we in this journey, in this conversational journey? Maybe on a stage 1 to 10, how far along is your business and maybe the world at large in terms of, maturity and sophistication of using conversational messaging?
I can only say about my business. And we are at the step 1 of 10-step process. We are at the very beginning of it. Part of it is also, of course, the kind of business we are in. It's agri-tech is very, very new, right? It's maybe a few years old, where the technology infusion into farming sector is now happening. The software technology infusion is happening, right? And on top of that, there is the perception of farmer being less techy, less, obviously there's a literacy issue there. So that does put some level of constraint, how fast you can make things happen. But at the same time, once the momentum happens, then it will be really go fast, because you have 135 million farmers in this country. And if this model works, of course, this can be also internationalized for similar developing countries and similar environments. But we are at the very beginning stage.
Aman?
Yeah, Beerud, I totally concur with Balaya. I mean, we are at a very nascent stage right now in conversational messaging. And one thing, I mean, we also have to do a lot from our end, as we have been discussing about the discovery part of it. We are already using it in our support and feedback process, but there is a lot to be done. I mean, discovery is the prime business, right? I mean, telling consumer what to buy. And unless we actually start doing it that, there is a lot to be done. And I think part of it has to be done from our side, but part of it has to be also be done by companies which are spearheading this conversational thing, right? I mean, like Gupshup or WhatsApp for that matter. WhatsApp, like, it hasn't still brought in-app shopping experience still in its app. And as those technologies come, I mean, brands also have to keep adapting to them. And I mean, it will definitely happen, but right now we are at a very nascent stage.
All right. Akhil, the final word.
On the same boat as Aman, right? I would say 3 maybe out of 10. We are doing something, but again, only the low-hanging fruits have been plucked so far. CS is, as I have been repeatedly saying, very low-hanging fruit. That is done. The true frontier to conquer right now is discovery and the LTV thing that you had shared, right? If I truly want to optimize my CAC and LTV, I will have to have loyalty, which is very difficult in the space that I am. The sheer number of brands, sheer number of avenues from where apparels can be purchased. So unless we make it extremely easy for the customer to find products and extremely fast for them to purchase them, we won't be able to do that. And for that, having a very strong connect is important. And that's something that, again, we are striving every day to build.
Got it. Great. Awesome. I want to thank all the panelists for a great discussion. I think it was very productive. Srini or Deepak, do you guys want to close it out?
Thank you, Beerud. And on behalf of Gupshup, thank you so much to our panelists, first of all, for sharing your insights and being so candid about where you are and what challenges you're facing on this journey. And we hope to accelerate that journey of yours. And we also hope that our attendees are inspired to start thinking about how they can seed conversational technologies into various parts of their workflows and value chains. And we wish them luck along the journey as well. So thank you so much for your time, and we will be in touch with more insightful webinars and panels like this. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Deepak, can we? Okay. All right. I think we're all closing out, right? Okay.
Yep.
Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you.